Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Burn. This is Steve, and today we're going to be doing a deck tech on Kalamax the Stormsire. Kalamax is a 4/4 elemental dinosaur for one colorless, a green, a blue, and a red. And whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Kalamax the Stormsire is tapped, copy that spell and you can choose new targets for that spell. So it's awesome because you could do that during every turn. So if you're in a 4-person pod, you could be doing it 4 times around, and whenever you copy an instant spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Kalamax. So one of the positives is you don't have to have him tapped in order to copy an instant spell, obviously, but if you do copy it and when he is untapped, you still get to put a +1/+1 counter on him. So that's really cool. So the next slide we're going to go through is going to be the win cons. We've got Lab Man, which is if you draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game. Sorry, this is new for me, so I'm working on it. We also have Thassa's Oracle. When it enters battlefield, you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Essentially, we're not going to read all through this. The only thing that matters is if X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. So that's the ultimate goal with Thassa's Oracle. And then we also have Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So again, his ultimate is fine. Draw 7 cards, which is great. The +1 of milling yourself for 2 obviously is good because you mill yourself for 2 plus draw a card. So not sure this is going to be a mill deck for yourself, but just something that you can look into. So next we're going to look at the mana ramp. There's about 6 or 7 mana ramp spells in here along with 34 lands. So crop rotation, you sack a land, get a land, put on the battlefield. Then you're going to have Harrow. I'm just going to run through all these. Growth Spiral, which is able to draw a card. Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, and then Manamorph. Manamorphos. It's add 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool, as well as draw a card. Because it's an instant, that's why it's a great card, because essentially you can be for 2 mana you can add 4 and draw 2 cards if Kalamax is tapped, or if you have another source out there that can copy your instant spells. So those are all your mana ramp cards, and we're going to go through some of the non-basic lands like Arcane Lighthouse, which is you tap 1 and tap it until the end of turn. Creatures your opponents control lose Hexproof or Shroud and can't get Hexproof or Shroud for the turn. So that's going to be a good card to get through your Shroud and Hexproof decks. And then Mystic Sanctuary comes into play tapped unless you control 3 or more islands. When it enters the battlefield untapped, you get to return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. So it's a good land, plus it's also going to get you some graveyard recursion. Next is Survivor's Encampment. This is put in here for the second ability. Tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So obviously we want Kalamax tapped in order to copy instant spells. So being able to tap him with this is going to help you. Is going to help you with that, as well as Holdout Settlement. Again, we're looking at it for the second ability. Tapped an untapped creature, add mana color. So they're great, you know. They're very they've got great utility in this deck and synergy with Kalamax to help you along the way. And now we'll get into some of the other utility cards. They're going to help you along the way. So we have Isochron Scepter. So when it enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand, and then you can tap 2. You may copy the exiled card. If you do, you may cast without paying its mana cost. So it's still a cast trigger. So we have a lot of 2-drop instants in this deck. You can either have Counterspell, you could do Manamorphos, Narset's Reversal is in here, Reverberate. So there's a lot of cards in here that this is going to work really well with synergy and make it a great card. Freed from the Reel is another utility card that we put in for our Kalamax. We could tap him for 1 blue mana at any given moment, or if Free from the Reel is attached, we can also untap him if we need to in order to make him a decent blocker as well. And then we have Fate Stitcher. Springleaf Drum. So Springleaf Drum is basically another mana rock. Tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana to your mana pool. And that's going to be great for the ability of getting Kalamax tapped. Then we have Twinning Staff, which is if you would copy a spell 1 or more times, instead copy it an additional time. And you could tap 7 and tap Twinning Staff, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control, and you may choose new targets for it. So the good part about him with the 7 is that you can actually copy sorceries as well. You'll see that this deck is not heavy on sorceries, and but it is good. But it does have a few. Next is Rashmi. So Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. Our goal is to be casting instants during other people's turns, and she's going to allow you to cast that spell, reveal the top card of your library, and if you can't cast it, then you get to put it to your hand. So it's going to help you with card draw through everybody else's turn. Now we have Captain of the Mists. Captain of the Mist is basically, he's in here for his second ability. For the tap a colorless and a blue, and you may tap or untap target permanent. So this is going to help you tap your Kalamax again, or if you need to untap and tap for other shenanigans, you can be doing that as well. You want to untap your Twinning Staff, you want to untap your Soul Ring for extra mana, whatever you need at the time. So, and whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, untap Captain of the Mist. There's not a ton of humans in here, but there are a few. And then we passed through one here a second ago, so I want to go through and see if we can't. I think it was Fate Stitcher. Yeah, alright, so Fate Stitcher is a zombie wizard for 4. But again, you may tap or untap another permanent, and if he dies, you can bring him back to the battlefield for 1 blue mana. You return it from your graveyard to play, it gains haste, and you remove it from the game after that. But if you need it for that one quick turn, it's a great card to have in there. Next, we're going to go through our tutors. We don't have a ton of tutors in here. We have, we have Merchant Scroll, which is going to be to search your library for a blue instant. Put it, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. And then our next tutor is going to be Mystical Tutor, which again, we're going to search our library for an instant, and we're going to put it on top of our, reveal it and put it on top of our library. But those are essentially the only 2 tutors that we have in the deck right now. Now we do have some quite a bit of card draw. We have Pull from Tomorrow, which is draw X cards and discard a card. We also have Channeled Force, which is going to do 2 things. Channeled Force is going to allow us to discard out of some cards that we may not need at the time. Let's say we have like Fate Stitcher on the battlefield, but then we have a couple of other tap abilities or tap effects in our hand. We can discard those. We can draw twice as many cards if we have Kalamax tapped or another one of our copy instant abilities out. Plus it does X damage to a creature or planeswalker. So let's say you just do this for 2. If your Kalamax is tapped, it becomes 4. You're going to discard 2 cards, draw 4, and you're going to do 4 points of damage to a creature or planeswalker. Think Killatraxa, you know what I mean? Our next card is going to be Rhystic Study, another great card draw. This is one of the cards that kind of pushed us to our limit as far as finances go, but still great card to have in any deck for draw abilities. And then we have Wave Break Hippocamp, which is a 2/2 creature, but whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. Which, again, that's our goal, is to be playing spells during other people's turns. And then the last of our card draw is draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, untap 3 lands. So I've gotten into a little bit of trouble with this because I have play tested this deck a little bit, in the sense of I've been, you draw 4, discard 4, but you can also untap 6 lands. So if you have, a great card in your hand or a win con in your hand, then you get to untap the 6 lands to hopefully get you there. As far as protecting Kalamax, this is it, Swiftfoot Boots. You'll see that there's no Lightning Greaves in here, and the reason why we don't put Lightning Greaves in here is because we need him to not have Shroud. We're going to have cards that are going to target him to tap him or untap him or do whatever. It's not that the Lightning Greaves can't be put in here, but as of right now, we just have the Swiftfoot Boots. And now we'll go through a little bit of the creatures. So we have Seedborn Muse, which is going to be great in this deck because you get to untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. So this is going to give you the ability to basically untap your lands and play as many instants as you can each turn. And if you have Wave Breakout, then you're going to be drawing cards as well. And now we have another creature, Murmuring Mystic, which is whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a 1/1 bird illusion creature with token, or token with flying, sorry. But the goal here is to have a bunch of blockers and stuff like that. Next is going to be Tarland, which is doing the same thing as Murmuring Mystic, except for you're getting a 2/2 token with flying. So that's going to help you out as well. And then we have Wart the Raid Mother. So Wart the Raid Mother is enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 Goblin Warrior creature tokens. But each red or green instant or sorcery spell has Conspire, which basically means as you cast a spell, you could tap 2 creatures that you control that share color with it, so red or green creatures. And when you do, copy it, and you may choose new targets for that copy. So it's basically a fork if you're casting something green. Now we have Docent of Perfection. So it's a flying 5/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you put a human wizard token onto the battlefield, and if you control 3 or more wizards, you transform Docent. And when he transforms, he turns into a fork. So that's another great card. And then we have Gutter Snipe. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, Gutter Snipe deals 2 points of damage to each opponent. There's 33 or 34 instants and sorceries throughout the deck. So that's obviously going to help you a lot. And then Archaeomancer, when it enters the battlefield, you return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, so a little bit of graveyard recursion. And then E-Witness is the same as far as graveyard recursion. And then Sprite Dragon, flying haste 1/1 for 2 mana. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So you cast him during your turn, play a couple of instants, he's a 3/3 or a 4/4 by the time it gets back around to you. So another great utility card or creature card in the deck. And so that's it for the creatures. We're going to go through a little bit of removal. We have Blasphemous Act, which is 8 colorless and a red, but it costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield, and it deals 13 damage to each creature. So a good card for helping with removal if you're going up against a lot of creatures or something like that. Next we have Comet Storm. Comet Storm, I know a lot of people have a lot of hate towards because of when it's been printed and, like master sets, and it's a mythic. In this situation, in this deck, it's actually a really good card because it's an instant. So, one, you can kick it a couple of times and then choose new targets. It's great. So it's a good card. It's actually done really well so far in the play testing that I've had. Next we have some spot removal, which is Beast Within. Destroy any permanent, and its controller gets a 3/3 beast. Crossing Grip. The part I like about this card is obviously it destroys an artifact or enchantment, but it's also split second, so it kind of eliminates the stack as well. So another good card to have in here. Now we have Expansion Explosion. This could actually be a win con for you. So for the expansion, you copy an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost 4 or less, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So it's a fork on one end, and then on the next end it's another instant for X, then 2 blue, 2 red, and deals X damage to any target, and target player draws X cards. So this can kill somebody, an opponent. It can kill a creature, or you can mill yourself out if you have a Jace on board, especially since you get to copy it, and if you're in the right situation, you copy it 2 or 3 times. So it's a great card. Now we have Electro Dominance, which deals X damage to any target. You may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. So this is going to help you out in the long run with getting just getting an extra instant or sorcery or creature onto the battlefield. And then we have Pongify, which is 1 blue to destroy a creature, and that person and its controller gets a 3/3 green ape. And so that's it for the removal. We'll go through a little bit of the counter spells. So we have Unwind. It's counter target non-creature spell, but untap 3 lands. The reason why I really like this card is because of the untap 3 lands. So if it's an instant, so you can untap 6. The next counter is going to be just a regular counterspell. But it's for 2 mana, so you can copy this with the Isochron Scepter and keep a counterspell locked up at all times. And then again, rewind. Counterspell and untap 4 lands. It's an instant, you're going to untap 8 lands. So that's it for the counterspells. And then we do have Jace again as our Planeswalker. And then we have one other Planeswalker in here, which is going to be Ral Storm Conduit. So he comes in at 4, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, he deals 1 damage to an opponent or a Planeswalker that opponent controls, or you control, I guess. And then +2, you can scry 1, so you can see what's coming up next. But then the -2 is when you cast your next instant or sorcery, copy it, and you may choose new targets for it. So if you've got the expansion or expansion explosion or something, blasphemous act or something like that in your hand that you want to copy, because just make it a huge kill spell for creatures or for people, this is going to help you get there as well with that fork ability. So so that's the deck. I'm going to leave a link here in the description, so feel free to check that out. It'll have the link to Archidect. It'll have all the cards listed there, including the ones I didn't go over. Obviously, I didn't go over all the lands, but I went over some of the non-basic ones that are very that have a lot of utility and synergy with the deck. So I hope you guys like this. This is our first attempt at the video, and at doing a deck tech video like this. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll be making another one here shortly, and hopefully get it posted within the next day or so. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the links in the description for the Discord, Patreon, and have a great day. We'll see you next time.